that show that I just forgot to record entirely was when we were talking about women and girlfriends and stuff. But
yeah, we don't want to. Well, actually, that might be good if we could. But it's got to be, it's got to be organic. Can't just be like.
I don't date organic women. I like to eat
GMO. Your women are Monsanto women.
They're artificially flavored, and I like to add sweetener to them.
Shit.
Yes. Could it be that it's Marc Goldfingers Hansen, guitarist extraordinaire, on Mentally Challenged with the Master Butcher? Could it be?
I'm in the middle of a golf course.
A golf course?
Yeah, man.
I think this should be our new thing. Is like our theme is like you're just going to be like on some weird location. You're in a cemetery, or on your porch, you're in a park, you're in the lap of that crazy lady that lives in your building. And
oh, fuck that, dude. I don't even like thinking about it. I don't even like talking about it.
Oh my god. Well, I was also thinking too. Have you been able to track down Lords of Chaos, the movie?
No, I mean I've tracked it down. I just forget it. I forgot to. I'm just gonna like rent it this week, just stream it. But I'll watch it because I'm a big fan of.
Why don't you just buy them? Isn't it like the same cost pretty much?
No, I mean I could rent it for like $2.99. I don't see it as, it's not Die Hard, so I don't see myself watching it every night. Like I do Die Hard. Greatest movie ever made, actually.
Die Hard is the greatest movie ever made? Yes.
Objectively, it's the greatest movie ever made.
Why is that?
It has to do with, like, I've never seen a movie more perfectly paced.
Is it because he beats up the Europeans, the mean, nasty, evil Europeans?
Yeah, they're all in black metal bands without their makeup.
That movie right there just describes how different you and I are, because I'd be on the side of like the European guys going like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, you're my own little Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah, I'll pitch you off the top of Nakatomi Towers, man.
What is that phrase you're so fond of, Marc? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Motherfucker. Then I rescue Holly.
And that's even better because, what's his name? Bruce Willis in real life was a Trump nut too, wasn't he?
Was he?
Yeah, he's Letterman or something, or somebody wearing a MAGA hat. And since then, his career has not been the same.
Well, no, he's got some kind of neurological problem where it's kind of like dementia. Like it was in the news. He's pretty much done making movies. Like he's.
Yeah, I heard.
It's kind of sad, actually.
What's wrong with him?
I don't know what the exact condition's called, but it's like a neurological thing where I think he's gonna lose his ability to speak. It's really sad.
How old is he?
He's probably like 60. I don't know, Bruce Willis. He's in his 60s at least. Let's see, Bruce Willis. I'm gonna look them up. Bruce Willis is 67 years old.
It's not very old.
No, and let me see if I can find out what that health condition is. It's called aphasia. And aphasia, let's look up that. Let's see what aphasia is. Sounds like a death metal band. It probably is a death metal band called aphasia. Loss of ability to understand or express speech caused by brain damage.
Do you think that condition was bestowed upon him from all the action stuff that he did? Because I know he did a lot of his own stunts, didn't he? Not all of them.
Did he?
I think he did some, not all, like crazy stuff. I think he did some of them. I mean,
probably.
He got a lot in his movies. I don't know how much of that really happened to him, but.
Well, I mean, he got his ass kicked in all the Die Hard movies, but I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, that's dementia or something, but again,
it's kind of like a. I think it's like a form of dementia, or maybe even a precursor to dementia, but.
Because once again, I have to give you an example out of the world of wrestling that you love so much. But I don't know if you've heard this story, but there was a wrestler named Chris Benoit. Have you heard of him?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Well,
Didn't he murder
he
someone?
did. He was a pretty not wildly famous, like say Stone Cold or The Rock, but he was pretty well known, like the second tier, like popular guy. He was a world champion. He was on
Right.
TV.
Probably on the way up, kind of a rising star,
Right,
maybe.
he was there pretty much. He wasn't like as popular. He wasn't like in wrestling. You got to talk a lot too, and like be on the mic, and that's part of your charm, and have
Uh-huh.
like a sellability point. He didn't have really that. He was kind of like generic in that way, but he was brutal in the ring, very
Uh-huh.
technical. But he strangled. He had a little young son, like 4 or 5, and a wife, and he strangled them both and hung himself.
Oh
Um,
God. But
so
yeah, he had the TBI, right?
the what?
Traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then it was something they never thought of. And then it was a thing with football players were complaining because they were trying to change the helmets for a while there before all this happened with the wrestling.
Mhm.
And this guy also, his finishing move was a headbutt that he did off the top rope, which that's a long way down. Headbutts hurt as it is, but like going all the way down, hitting
Oh yeah.
people or hitting the mat because they move, or that really fucks your head up, and just all the damage you
Yeah.
take anyway.
But just it happens to a lot, any kind of contact sport, like football, hockey, like all those. Just
Well, those
you
guys
even
have
just
helmets though too. This guy, he didn't have a helmet, and he's banging his head into people's arms and
right.
shoulders, their heads, and or the mat
But
when it moved.
it's not necessarily even just like the helmet or not. It's just even if it's just like light, or mild. Just like if you're just constantly mildly beating your head against the wall, just that act of knocking your brain back and forth is gonna.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is you've heard about the and metal people have that. I wonder how bad actually headbanging really hard is for you, because I've had
A,
times where I
a
put
lot.
headbanging in the music and I was just like, oh man, I fucked my head up a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't do that,
Yeah. I
You
don't know
got
how much. I don't know how much head injury you get, but I know
well, you move your brain around
neck
too. It's not
neck
exactly
problems are a big deal. Like most of those aging, like Tom Araya, he's got his like all his like his neck had to be like fused together, so he can't headbang anymore.
in Corpsegrinder.
Um,
Jesus Christ.
I was gonna say, like, I think he's the only one that's gonna be able to do it, probably into his, till he's done, because
His neck is
somehow
like
his
pure
neck
muscle.
muscles, yeah, his is more like
He
his
looks
is
like
just
a Cardassian. Do you know what a Cardassian is? The aliens from Star Trek?
not totally, but I'm assuming
They're
they
known
have.
as they're like neck-centric species, so they have like this giant, thick neck. It goes right up into their head, right in their
Oh
shoulder.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what Corpse Grinder looks like as a Cardassian. But anyways, getting back to Chris Benoit, like the reason I brought that up is because he murdered his family, and they immediately just went to steroids and steroid rage and all of that. And
Sure.
he was taking steroids, but that's not really what happened. They figured out they chopped his head in half and like looked at his brain, and then when they saw it, they saw that like his brain basically looked like mush. There were no like striations and lines like a normal human brain. It was like almost mush, like a part of it.
Smooth
Everything
brain,
was
yeah.
like like someone stirred it up and put it back together in like a rough shape. And it was fucked.
Yeah,
Like, and then you gotta once they figured it out, it was contact sports. It's been like a
yeah.
big
He's
company.
like he was like the kind of the case that sort of broke that sort of open, right? So now it's like
Well, it
more.
was. You had some guys just complaining about just the pain and whatnot, or they'd overdo. Most wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers overdose on drugs or steroid or painkillers and just stuff like that because of the pain their
Sure.
bodies are in. But when
Hmm.
this happened, because it was murder and it involved a woman and a child, and then he killed himself, like they don't, they were like, what the hell. And
Yeah, something was going
like, what
on.
would cause this? Like roid rage, and that's just dumb because he killed his family over the span of like a weekend. Like he killed them both like all during across one whole day, and he was in the house with them all weekend. That's not roid rage. Roid rage is like you take some roids. I don't
Yeah,
know how long it
it's
takes,
like
but it's
road
not like
rage actually. It's like a explosive like kind of temper, and then you know it's kind of over, right? Like
and you have like anger bouts, and I'm pretty sure it's not something where you'd like just hang somebody or kill them. I mean, but it could, but I mean, not really. But I mean, this was like he murdered his family. Like, why would you do that and then kill yourself over the process of an entire like a
Have,
day.
have you ever taken steroids back in your kind of bodybuilding days?
No, I never did. I got a lot of friends who did. They always said, "Oh no, it's safe." I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so." Like,
I think it's
just the
fine,
side
but
effects alone, like acne, and it starts to, you supposedly it's a myth that it shrivels up your testicles, but I'm not gonna fucking chance that. I'm like,
I would.
and
But
not only that, but really, if you take steroids, I mean, it just what it does is it puts a lot of the protein in there, but it just if you don't work out like really hard and religiously, all it does is puff you up. That's why a lot of wrestlers, they look big, but you can see they're kind of like they look puffy, but not
right.
necessarily super defined. Or sports or like football players and stuff.
Well,
I mean,
and I think
yeah,
another.
out like crazy. There, that's different. But
Well, the other danger is with steroids. It's like an anti-inflammatory. So a lot of times, if you're injured and you take steroids, you don't know you're injured because whatever's inflamed, telling you something's wrong. You know, it sort of uh, mitigates it. You know, which is why
well,
they
that
give
too.
steroids for like inflammation stuff. But you know, you
And you got
gotta.
too, like just think about American food. Like they put steroids in chickens and cows and pigs to make them bigger, to make them more sellable, to make it bigger so they get more money for it. And we're
Sure.
eating that. And that's if you look at the average size of an average American versus say your average European, most of them are like 90 to 100 something pounds. Here we are like
Sure.
220, 250 and above. It's just
Well,
like
you know what? You know what's weird? Like speaking of that, like this is something that I've just sort of been noticing lately. It's like not only it seems like everybody's like obese, right? But they're obese in like weird ways. Like their shapes are fucking weird. Like I'll see like, and it seems to happen with like females mostly, like where I notice it. But like they'll just be like enormous, and then they'll have these twiggy legs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like it's like this misshapen obesity that's happening, and that's always been odd. Like you remember? I mean, there used to be like fat kids in school and everything, but they were kind of fat all around, and it was just they're just cute little roly-poly things. But now it's like the obesity is like we got these kind of big folding guts, tiny arms and legs, and it's just like they're looking like I don't know, like Tweedledee Dumb shaped. It's just weird. Or it'd be like no ass. They'll have literally no ass, but like their whole front is just swollen. And I'm like, what is going on? Like it's almost like the obesity is like being targeted in certain areas instead of just being obese all over like a fucking normal person.
well,
Like,
that's the thing is like you have genetic or hereditary obesity,
yeah.
but then you have
Then we're
uh,
compounding it with whatever we're
it's
putting
just
in.
what people eat. It's not even necessarily just eating like fattening stuff or junk food. It's just all this artificial shit that's in all of our food or medications. I know a lot
Yeah.
of girls who take certain medications, either birth control or just something for their blood pressure or this or that, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes them
Just
gain weight
balloon
like a
up.
lot. Not just 20
Yeah.
pounds. I mean a lot, like 100 or so.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's America, man. Pharmaceuticals and stuff in our food. And
No, I mean I agree, and trust me, dude, I love pharmaceuticals, but
oh yeah.
only certain kinds. But yeah, we gotta. I don't know. I mean, can't do anything about it.
Didn't
Powerless.
Carcass cover some of these topics on their third album, Necroticism? There's like the spoken word intro to each song, and I remember hearing something about, I think, of pharmaceuticals or something to that effect. Or wasn't there a song about that?
Probably.
I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read Carcass lyrics.
Yeah, me too. Hey, speaking of that, when is that Carcass show? You
Oh yeah, I was
sent
gonna
me a link.
say there is a Carcass show. I think it's December 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
We gotta go.
Are we going?
We're going.
I got to be honest. I don't want to see Amon Amarth, but I'll sit through Obituary and Carcass. I don't know who the other band was. I can't remember.
It wasn't Behemoth, was it?
No, no.
Was it? I think it might have been another good band. I can't remember.
I don't remember. It was Obituary, Carcass, Amon Amarth, and something
Oh, it's
else.
Obituary.
Oh, there's a fourth band too. I can't remember who it was. Well, also, I think it's December 10th, and if it's not that one, there's another show that's coming up in December or November that we probably ought to go. I don't know if you'll be into it, but Raven is coming. They're going to the Aces High Saloon.
Oh yeah, Raven. I'd definitely go see Raven.
Do you know
And
much
I
of
like,
their material?
yeah, I mean, I've done like a deep dive like a couple years. I haven't listened to them for a while, but I reviewed one of their albums for a website. I forgot what the website was, but it was really good. It was like one of their newer albums, like in 2016 or something.
I think their drummer is actually a guy that used to be in Fear Factory, but not Dino. It was some other guy. I think it was in Fear Factory, maybe?
Dino's the
Or
guitar player.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Gene Hoglan is who I'm thinking of then, but it's not him. There's some other guy that plays in Raven now. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm always down to see Raven. I know they came here once previously. I missed it, but
Yeah, I'm looking at the tour dates here for.
they're playing Wiped Out, their album all the way through.
Oh yeah.
Kind of wish it was All for One. That's the best album. Everybody knows that, and they know it, but they just kind of try to, you know. Iron Maiden was just here, weren't they?
I think they're coming, but
I thought it happened already.
there's a whole bunch of tours coming. DSI has been touring and they're playing their entire
Legion.
Yeah, their entire Legion album, which is interesting because I know Glenn Benton does not like he's kind of disparaged that album, but I guess looking back, he's maybe had a change of heart. I don't know. Was it Incantation? That's who's coming, right?
With Carcass?
Oh, fuck.
No, I can't remember. It's probably not a band I even know, but I just know that I could sit through Obituary and I don't want to see Amon Amarth, but Carcass I'll go see for sure. But
Obituary's fun. I interviewed John Tardy once. He's a really cool dude.
I interviewed Trevor. It was like my very first on-air interview way back in the 90s when I did my radio show. It was arranged by the label.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I winged my way through it because I didn't really like Obituary much back then, And I was like, oh, yeah, tell me about Slowly. I had Slowly We Rot. So I'm like, oh, yeah. And, just kind of let him do the talking. I kind of winged my way through it. But of course, since then, I've heard a lot of their stuff. But
It's funny that you said that because I was supposed to interview Trevor. Wait, no, I was supposed to interview the drummer, the brother of John Tardy.
Donald Tardy?
Don Tardy, yeah. And so I kind of had to wing my way through that one because I had like drummer questions prepared. But it was a good interview.
And speaking of almost interviewed, wait till you hear this. I went when I was doing my radio show once, like I was a couple of years into it.
Yeah.
I was going on vacation to Texas.
Oh, cattle decapitation, dude, they're cool.
Yeah, that's who it was. That's who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never really heard or seen much of them, but whatever.
They're pretty badass.
But I was going on vacation to Texas for 2 weeks, and my big thing was to go down there and just eat all the good food. And they had kick-ass like record stores and shows, so I was gonna buy a bunch of music, and I did all that. But what sucked is while I was gone, there was another label interview that was arranged by the label. Guess who it was?
Who?
David fucking Vincent.
Did you interview him?
I didn't because I was gone, and like there was a guy I left filling in for me. And nobody who's did metal shows at that time, there were like 3 other metal shows. None of them really knew much about Morbid Angel.
Uh-huh.
And the guy who did it was the one guy out of the 4 of us who didn't even know anything about metal. He somehow got a radio show playing metal, and he knew nothing because his friend was a DJ there who did industrial. So this guy drove a Saab, wore big wool socks with Birkenstocks, had a short Kurt Cobain haircut, like even shorter, and didn't listen to metal at all, but somehow he got the prime Friday night slot that I wanted for a radio show, and he just played stuff based on the names of the songs, like just silly, stupid shit, like Cannibal Corpse and just whatever the fuck, and he just played whatever people called up and told him to play. He got the David Vincent interview and made us look like idiots because he was like, don't only sick and disgusting people like this kind of music, David? And he's like, no, why would you say that? And, David's, of course, being very frank and down to earth and intelligent, and this guy's like, oh, So have you ever killed anybody or sacrificed a girl? I'm like, God damn, man, he just embarrassed us. I could have done this interview and been like talking about Satanism and all this stuff, but I was in Texas and I like, fuck, I missed it. Like they couldn't reschedule it, you know. I'm like, please reschedule it. I'm like, oh, we can't.
Well,
He's got to do it by his schedule.
Doesn't David Vincent? He lives in Austin now, I think.
Does he?
Yeah, he's got like a big old ranch and raises like cattle and stuff.
Yeah. How does he do that and go on tour?
Well, dude, when you're a rancher, you're your own boss, man.
Well, that might be so, but how do
he probably has
get taken care of?
Well, they have these things called ranch hands.
Does he really have that much money to pay people to run that? I mean, it's kind of a lot of work to do just to fuck it off and leave it.
He's a smart business guy. Think about it, you know.
Is he indeed?
You know, he probably. I mean, I know, like, you know, no. I don't know if you can really become a millionaire playing death metal, but if you are smart with your money, a band like Morbid Angel, you could probably bank quite a bit, you know. And then Genitortures were pretty big for a while.
Well, Morbid Angel was one of the bigger death metal bands. They probably made some good money, and don't forget, they weren't always on Earache either. They were on Giant Records for a while, which was like a big, kind of a bigger label.
I think they were the first that was on a major label, but I don't remember what the label was. Was it
It was Giant Records.
Atlantic, but they were it was like a subsidiary of.
Yeah, it was connected to some other label. I don't know who, but Giant Records. That was like a big deal back then. Mm-hmm. And that was when it all started. And then they got off Earache, and then a little bit later on was the whole Columbia Records thing, where you saw Carcass, Cathedral, I think Confessor, Fudge Tunnel, and Napalm Death all went with Columbia. Because Columbia wanted a piece of the pie. They're like, what's going on with all these UK, grindcore bands and stuff and death metal? And unfortunately, that when they picked up all those bands, that's when all that change was happening. Like Napalm Death started doing like that weird industrial off-kilter like rock stuff, and Cathedral totally went like with the hippie. I think Cathedral's the only one who stayed on Columbia for a minute, if I'm not mistaken. All the other bands got dropped. Because Confessor, have you ever heard Confessor?
Yeah, they're amazing. Kind of a crazy sort of technical,
really good music. Weird. The music's good, but like the vocals, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Like it's some guy going, yeah, like just really loud, nasally. I'm not into it at all. Like I heard that, and I was like, oh god. But anyway, and then Fudge Tunnel was like a sludgy band, and they were kind of losing their sludgy edge and went into doing like just like rock, and so they didn't get what they bargained for. And have you ever heard Fudge Tunnel? They do like a Ted Nugent cover too, on one of their albums.
No, I mean I've seen the name, you know, a million times, but I kind of wrote them off as just like punk or something.
They're like sludge, like the Melvins or I Hate God or one of those bands. They're like sludgy, but not quite as disturbingly like with the vocals. You know, they're more like UK sounding sludge.
I interviewed someone from I Hate God once.
They're actually coming too to Salt Lake.
So, really?
Yeah.
Now Salt Lake's getting some good tours. I was kind of bummed that Cannibal Corpse is not going to hit Utah, but they are
passing us by after all those years of being like their #1 state.
Yeah. So, but they're doing Vegas in I think like November 25th. So I might try.
So that's weird because that guy we talked about at the Metro, he gets all the shows. He just brought Boris here from Japan. They had like 2 nights ago. You ever heard Boris?
Yeah, I think they were playing tonight. I thought they were.
No,
I've never heard them though.
Thursday. They changed
their
their style. It's like noisy guitar drony stuff, but they have a few albums that are like kind of just like that heavy, crushing, doomy, this like Earth or that kind of stuff. Just really heavy bottom end, just really good. Some of it's pretty good. I kind of wanted to go, but you know.
Boris. I didn't know they were from Japan. You know,
indeed.
Just another one of those bands where like like you're aware of them. I just haven't gotten around to checking them out yet. But I don't know.
So what do you think Carcass is going to play on their tour? All new stuff, or you think they're going to play some stuff
I
from the
hope.
first two?
I hope they. I think they'll. I think they'll. They're a band that, like, I mean, have to play, you know, their old stuff. You know, but I think their new stuff holds up. You know, I I wouldn't be surprised if they leave. You know, I don't know. Actually, I would think they'd touch every album. Why not? You
Even
know,
the first album?
yeah, even the first album.
I don't
Although, you
know.
know, it's like it'd probably be hard to recognize those songs because you're like, I can hear the guitars. It doesn't sound like just static noise coming through my headphones. So they should. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm usually. Well, I don't know if I'm totally against it, but I almost think like it'd be interesting if they re-recorded that first album, just for fun. But I also understand that maybe, you know, maybe that wouldn't be a good idea so much either, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I don't know. I think I don't know. I think music's just a fad. I think I'm growing out of it. Growing out of music.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna get
god.
into photography. I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm looking at guitars, dude. I want a new guitar.
I thought music was just a fad.
It is.
Well, then why are you looking at guitars?
Because you're dumb. I don't know. I'm just kidding, dude. Music ain't a fad. So I was listening to the new Immolation, and I hate to say it, dude. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. But I'm not gonna say, like, I think they're completely original and innovative, but they don't really. I don't know what I'm missing about it. Like, it's the style that I guess doesn't quite check all the boxes for me. I don't know. I love the guy's vocals. I think he's got one of the best death metal vocals ever. But the music it almost sounds too. And I could be totally wrong on this because you got to understand I'm ignorant about the genre a little bit. But I'd almost say it's almost borderline black metal. Too much.
Black metal.
Yeah. Like music.
Okay, well, here we go.
Did you get any of that vibe from it?
I listened to it and I got a pretty brutal death metal vibe. I did not get so much of the Florida like kind of sound that I tend to not like. I thought, you know, this is really not that bad. The vocals are really deep and growls. Like the music, it's technical, but it's not like ridiculous with like all over the place, which is what I usually hate about American death metal.
Yeah, it's really interesting music.
So it was pretty heavy. It was pretty bleak. It was a little dirgy, strangely enough, and it wasn't like Lightspeed or like moshy or funky or groovy. It was just good, solid death metal. And I thought, if I'm going to compare this to anybody, I have to say Nile, like the vocals and the music and everything. There's some soloing, of course. So me personally, I thought this isn't really that bad of an album. I could actually have that in my collection and like break it out when I want to hear something more technical and less of the noisiest like European stuff. But
okay.
So how is that different from all their other stuff? Because I've heard stuff from them in the past that was more of like the Morris sound kind of sound.
Well, you know, Bob Vigna, I mean, he's kind of the guitar player, main songwriter. It's you know, they're like you know, any death metal band that has, you know, a big catalog, right? So like think of a band like Death, right? You know, they start off with Scream Bloody Gore. And then you have Leprosy, Spiritual Healing, Human. You know, Individual Thought Patterns, Sounds of Perseverance, yada yada. every one of those albums, like you could put it on and it'll sound like death, right? Like you can recognize like certain guitar phrasings and especially like the vocals, right? But
Yeah.
each album is like different. Does that make sense? So like that their newest album, you're gonna hear things from their early albums, you know, common, you know, like certain note phrasings or musical passages that'll sort of makes you know that it's Immolation, right? But yeah, you know, just because of they're all going to be different though, because back then, you know, they're younger, you know, every album, you know, and that's what I think that's kind of what I like about like death metal is, or like a good death metal band will move forward, but within like this really sort of constrained genre. You know what I mean? Like you can't go too crazy, right? Or else it stops being death metal. So you have to keep it death metal, but still being able to sort of move the music forward and change and evolve with each album. You know, it's really, I think it's cool because a good death metal band will do that, you know, and I bring it up all the time, but Cannibal Corpse is one of those. Where it's like, yeah, you know, you're listening to Cannibal Corpse from the first album to the last album, but you can hear like how they've changed as musicians, you know, and lineup changes. There's been lineup changes with Immolation too, you know, so those things are going to change, but the main songwriters are there, so you're always going to have that sort of common, like kind of a thread that ties everything together. And Carcass is another band, right? Every album is different from the last album, but you know it's Carcass.
So you would say Immolation are changing pretty much throughout their entire discography?
Yeah, but not drastically. I mean, they're going to sound like Immolation. So if you like their last album, the most recent album, you're probably going to enjoy, you know, at least something off every one of their previous albums, because there's not been like a complete reversal of styles or anything like that. You know, it's death metal, but you know, when they put out their first album, like in what, 90, 91, I mean, the scene was still very new, right? So they were kind of trying to find their little niche as well. So, you know, you might be able to hear a lot more of their like kind of like the early influences, you know, so which was where, you know, kind of where thrash started to become death metal, you know, and a lot of those, when you hear a lot of those early death metal albums, there's a lot of artifacts of thrash metal in there, right? Because that's sort of, you know, where it came from.
Well, yeah, that's most American death metal. That's what I was saying. I think last week or the week before is just seems like Americans were all geared to be thrashers, but then death metal happened, so they tried to infuse that. But to me, you
Mm-hmm.
hear nothing but Slayer influence with like the speed and the soloing and the riffing, but then there's that slight heaviness that because they like death metal, but hence American
Well, and maybe,
American
you
death
know,
metal.
maybe you know, like, because I'm trying to kind of figure out, like, well, okay, why do I prefer certain death metal over others, right? And I think that's probably why I like Cannibal Corpse so much, you know, and bands like that, is because they actually still, you can still always like hear the thrash in it, and which is weird because I like death metal more than I like thrash, but I like, when it comes down to it, I like chunky riffs. You know what I mean? That, you know, where it's tight, punchy, and chunky.
You and
I
your
need that in my
chunky
death metal.
riffs.
Yeah. So when it starts getting a more like washy sounding, you know, or zzz, you know, like where it doesn't have that kind of punch of, you know, the chicka 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 chicka, you know, you know, like that kind of thing, where it's just sort of like funky and groovy, like the groove, which is, I mean, that's the stuff that just, that's what resonates, you know, with me on it. So the bands that do that more, you know, that are just chunking a lot, are the ones I'm going to gravitate to, you know. So that's why, like, bands like Suffocation are one of them. You know, Morbid Angel is like kind of splits the difference between that, like, you know, atmospheric kind of stuff and chunk, you know, because when they get chunky, they get really chunky.
Really chunky.
Yeah, I love that, you know, like Where the Slime Live. You know, you know, that groove. It's like you just want to like nod your head, thrust your hips. You know.
So why is there about a 2 to 4 year gap between every Immolation record? Is it not?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like earlier on, most of those bands put out something every year, but it seems like their entire career is like anywhere from a 2 to 4 year gap, other than like a couple of records are back to back. But that's it. But
I always thought like
band.
Oh no, they're not a project band, dude. But you're right. Like, so they had their first album in '91, second album in '96. So that was 5 years, and then 4 years, '99, then 1 year, 2000, 2002, 10, 13, 17, 22. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's just the way they work. They probably all have day jobs, so I don't know if they can just. I don't know if they're at a level where they're completely surviving off music, which is a shame. They should, but I think it's probably it's just difficult, and their music is like really involved, you know. I mean, they put a lot of thought into it. That's one thing you can say for them. I mean, they're not phoning it in, you know. And you can kind of tell, I think, when bands phone it in.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a band that has, really, off the top of my head, as far as death metal goes. It's just not a genre that I think really lends itself to phoning it in. Like,
it's funny you say that, because outside of death metal, I'm reading Rob Halford's book now. I just read KK's. Now I'm in the middle of Rob Halford's book. And remember, we talked about how Point of Entry and for me, Turbo are like some of their weakest shit albums, other than like I can't stand British Steel.
yeah.
He's, of course, thinks British Steel is great, so I'm like, all right, whatever. But then he said, yeah, I was phoning it in, or pretty much just like writing on autopilot with Point of Entry and Turbo. He wasn't really there because he was like just wrapped up in drugs and stuff. I'm like, wow, really? I didn't know Rob Halford had that problem. But he was just saying Point of Entry in particular, like they just like shout out like 10 songs and like just shit the lyrics out easily in the studio, and just he said he hates that record, kind of, or not hates it, but he just doesn't like it. He's
Weird.
not proud of it. And I'm like, that is they're probably their weakest record if you really think about it.
Point of Entry.
I mean, it's just so poppy, and just they're doing the da da vocals, and but I wonder how much of the cue they took from Kiss, because Kiss was also doing disco and pop at that time of the 79, 80, around there. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but he just said they were on autopilot. They were obsessed with. They went to record in like the Bahamas or something at a studio, and of course, all they did was fuck around and get drunk and fuck girls and all this stuff. And
yeah, that's always weird to record a metal album in a tropical paradise. I don't know if that.
Iron Maiden does that all the time too, though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Judas Priest, they would more often than not be in Ibiza, which is something down. I can't remember where. Something.
Spain or Portugal or something.
Somewhere around there, and then there's also just they would go to the Bahamas and just places like that, or places with like island tropics, and like, why would you go there? Like, of course, all they're gonna do is fucking party. But that was his comment on his own about especially his part of that record, a point of entry, because it was just like he said a few of the songs are solid, like Desert Plains, Heading Out to the Highway, but a lot of the songs like Don't Go and Troubleshooter and You Say Yes, all those songs are like they're fucking crap. Let's face it.
Yeah, I might like that album. Maybe I'll have to give
You
it my
gotta
spin.
you gotta read those books. Like I said, you've been saying you're gonna come see me at the restaurant. And you can read the KK one and the Tom Warrior one. They're really interesting, and a lot of Rob's stuff. Like it's a well written book because of course he goes into like being in love and like the some of the aspects of gay sex. Not too deep, but I'm just like, wow, didn't need to know that, Rob. But he gets really in depth about that and the music, how it pertained to the music, and how hard it was for him to be a rock star and not go out and chase pussy, quote unquote, and just be kind of stuck to being on his own because he was gay, especially at a time and touring in America and in the South, a part of America for so many years, and like he certainly couldn't admit to being gay, and it would have ruined Judas Priest, he thought. So
Yeah,
there was all of
well,
that pressure on him, but then he'd sneak in little secrets, like the song "Jawbreaker" is about sucking a huge cock, like no
yeah,
one ever knew. So,
that's interesting.
do you hate Judas
Yeah.
Priest?
What's that?
So do you hate Judas Priest now? You're like Jawbreaker, man. That was my favorite song. I hate it now.
Oh, dude, like I said before, dude. Like I knew Rob Halford was gay in like third grade. Like there was already like people talking about it, like which was weird when he came out. I'm like, oh, I already knew, like
When were you in
it,
third grade?
when was I in third grade? When I was
It would have
9.
been like about 4 or 5 years after me, right? So about what, 19?
1985, 86, whatever, 84, 85.
Yeah, see, how would you know? Because that wasn't like anything anyone ever thought until.
No, there was like rumors already, like saying that he like does it with other guys, and I was like, that's weird. But it's like in third grade, like like I'm not even really into sex or anything like that at that point. I haven't even hit puberty really. But it like it didn't be like, well, I'm not listening to Judas Priest anymore. I just did it. I don't know. It was like a non-issue to me. Like whatever. That's weird. But
I never suspected that he would be gay, and I've heard people say that because of the dominatrix kind of appearance with the hat and the whip and all that. And it was often like that was, I think in England, that was like a kinky fetish for gay men to dress like that, which of course is where they
yeah,
got
it was
outfitted.
it was total. Yeah, it was
But they
total.
were a
Just
heavy
other
metal band,
guy.
so it was disguised pretty much. And I was a kid, I didn't really think twice about it. But once the rumor came out, I'm like, nah, I don't think so. But even if he is, who cares? I mean, when he came out and said, yes, I am gay, that was about the time he was doing, I think, at least Fight, if not Halford. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Halford's a
No,
fucking kick
he
ass
was
frontman.
doing that 2 project that was like produced by Trent Reznor. I think that's when it came out. It was during that.
And
But
that was after Fight, wasn't it? Or was it before?
that was after.
Hmm.
So it was like 92, 93, I don't know, when he came out.
Well, it sounds like you're in the middle of an airstrip again.
Probably.
Are they looking for you? Are the spotlights out tonight?
Not yet.
They're like, he's here somewhere.
No, no.
Well, I was looking at Malevolent Creation's discography while we were talking, and I noticed here it says that Brett Hoffman had died. Did you know that? The singer? Must have been a while ago. A couple of
No.
years ago. Let me go back there. It said he died of colon cancer at age 51. I'm like, oh, God.
It was
I'm
probably
fucking
fairly
52,
recently.
man. I don't want to hear that. You what?
Yeah, we're at that age, man. We're supposed to. Yeah, I went to like I had like
Yeah,
a checkup.
2018. He died in 2018, it says. That was a little while ago, but yeah, it was fairly recent in the scheme of things.
Yeah, that's too
That's
bad.
crazy. I didn't know that. And according to their discography here, the only guy left in the band is Phil Fossiano. Like, what's going on here? Wait a minute. Oh, no, I see what they're saying. Okay. There are other people in the band, but like he's the last original member.
That's kind of odd when bands like completely. But that's another thing with death metal is like death metal bands have lineup changes like crazy, like probably more than any other genre. It seems like.
Yeah, they
I wonder
do.
why
I
that
mean,
is.
it's probably, I think it could be anything. Maybe they just
But
get
what's
sick of
interesting
playing the.
about that is like there's all these lineup changes, but it's like nobody hates each other.
Well,
Like
it's
they're
funny you
usually
say that. I had the same thought. I'm like, okay, there's a guy from Monstrosity that's still in Malevolent Creation today,
uh-huh.
and Rob Barrett had been in that band for a while in Malevolent Creation. Like, how do you go from just playing
He,
Cannibal Corpse to doing that? You just switch gears, and like then all of a sudden you got to learn all their songs, and that's
but
it. You
and
just stop. Like, what do you do? How do you
Barrett
do
was
that? You
in
know,
Barrett was in Monstrosity too, I think, for a little while.
maybe. Yeah, I don't remember.
And so was I don't know if you've watched that Cannibal Corpse documentary. Um, it's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's great. It's like 2.5 hours long, but it's awesome.
I saw
But
part of that where they were. What was their band name before when they were a thrash band? It was like
well, they
Purgatory or.
no, so they're like Cannibal Corpse was like they formed out of like the kind of like the remaining members of like 3 bands from the Buffalo scene, which was a band called Beyond Death that had Alex Webster and Jack Owen, and then there was Tyrant Sin, which was Paul
Tyrant Sin, that's
Mazurkowitz.
it.
That was Paul Mazurkowitz's band, and then there was Tyrant Sin, Beyond Death, and oh, I don't know. I can't remember. There was a third band, and the third band had like uh, oh, who was in the third band? The third band had Bruce. I got to find that out. That's gonna drive me crazy. But yeah, and but the kind of there's like the funny part about that documentary is Monstrosity comes up a bit because like it seems like every like Monstrosity of course had Corpsegrinder first, so Cannibal Corpse comes in and takes Corpsegrinder, and then Monstrosity has like Rob Barrett. Cannibal Corpse grabs Rob Barrett, and then Pat O'Brien auditioned for Monstrosity and was going to take the Monstrosity gig, and then Cannibal Corpse got Pat O'Brien, and I think it was they were interviewing like Carl Sanders from Nile, and he's like yeah, like with Monstrosity, it's like yeah, you can come play for Monstrosity, and then you can like go move on to another bigger band, But
That's kind of what always happened with Monstrosity.
yeah, it was like they were like the kind of the training ground for like up and coming death metal dudes. But I like that about the death metal scene is that they do seem to like kind of I don't know, just their members move around and everything, but it's never out of like fuck that guy, like they're just like oh yeah no so and so's playing for them now, and then they go back and rejoin, and then drummer leaves, they get a new drummer, then the old drummer comes back, and then that drummer leaves, forms another. So it's kind of like I think it's probably because it's such a once again it's such a niche sort of scene that you just kind of have to in order to keep everything fresh you just move pieces around.
Well, that's how it tends to
Changes
go
the
in a lot of
dynamic.
cities. And if you think about Salt Lake, it was more black metal here, but we had like every black and death metal band here all had the same 3 guys. It was all the guys from Ibex Throne. They
Mm-hmm.
were in Lord Beherit, Terra Noir, Mindlock. All these bands had the same guys. Then they like splintered off into, and then like Winterlore were their own band, but Jake was in Winterlore, Jake Rogers, and he ended up
Yeah.
in Visigoth. He has a couple other black metal bands, as did one of the other guys in Winterlore too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all over the place, but it's most of the people who are like willing to do music and make it and get together and practice and write music are the ones who are just constantly doing it. Everybody else just kind of does or doesn't do it, or they do it once or here and there, and it's just a hobby. That it's like running a record label. You can't just I learned that over the years. Like, you can't just put something out and, you know, then you're okay for a while. Other bands are like, hey, you're going to put this out? Like, you have this EP, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then you agree to do it, and then your car fucking dies. So you got to buy a new engine or some shit. So you have to put it off, and it's all this
Mhm.
shit. Then they're like, what the fuck? Where's, and then you get this other band wants to put something out. There's other band you promised that you forgot about. Like, oh, shit. So you got to commit to it, like hardcore, just like being in a band, you know, same thing.
Yeah.
So you're in a band right now. I mean, what do you do? Is it just casual, or do you? Is
I was
it?
just casual, dude. Like, I mean, we haven't. It's like we kind of,
Are
you
you
know,
in
we
two
went on.
bands?
No, I'm not. I'm not even really technically in any bands right now. Like,
I thought you were in
everything's
two.
just.
Super so far, and what was the other one? Or was that like the previous one?
I mean, I was in Category 5, but that was years ago, dude. Like,
Well, Category 5, but then you said Super so far, and there was another one I thought you mentioned once.
I mean, my first band was called Weird Harold.
Yeah,
That
Weird Harold.
was
I guess that was a while ago then. All right.
we broke up in like, man,
Was that named after the
2000.
Fat Albert character?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Yeah,
Why is
because
that?
we were a funk metal band. Our singer was black.
So you played like those songs that Fat Albert would play on the cartoon?
No, we wrote original songs,
Like, hey, you gotta
but
go get your tonsils out. Hey.
man, dude,
What?
you're like school on holiday, no class.
Oh,
Um,
shit.
no, because I, you know, like I kind of told you, my style of guitar playing is always, no matter what I listen to or like how heavy I try to be, it comes off as like heavy metal and R&B, you know. So that's kind of what I was trying to do with Weird Harold. I was really into like Extreme and 24/7 Spies, Living Color, like that kind of funk metal sort of hybrid that, you know, and it was kind of got big in the 90s, you know, but not many people really could pull it off that well. But it was fun. I love that band. I mean, singer Rick, he's my best friend. I'm like, I love the guy. You know, and the drummer went on to play for Air Supply. So there you go. Um,
There's a couple of guys that live here in Salt Lake that play in Air Supply. Why is that?
because there's so you got Johnny Lightfoot is was the bass player for Air Supply, and he used to be in. He was in Super So Far, so I've done shows with Johnny.
There was I don't remember the name. It was either a bass player or a guitar player that's in Air Supply that he always would order from my restaurant at the barbecue, and like it would say something like, or they just mentioned he was the guy from Air Supply, or I don't know how it came up. But I'm like,
It
holy
was
shit! I
probably,
mean,
I'd imagine it was Johnny Lightfoot.
it was who?
Was it Johnny Lightfoot? That was the bass player.
It
He's
could have
not
been.
in
I
Air
don't
Supply
remember.
anymore, but he was
I didn't even
in
think
Super
Air
So
Supply was
Far.
around anymore. I thought they
Oh,
died
yeah.
off in the early
Well,
'80s. I mean, that was.
so Graham Russell, the singer for Air Supply, or like, you know, they're a duo, right? So you got the two main guys. So one of the main guys, Graham Russell, it lives in, I think, Midway, Utah. So that's why I think, you know, people from Utah end up playing in Air Supply, because the main songwriter lives here. Yeah, so my drummer went on and played with them, and Johnny played with Air Supply. So there's my Air Supply connection, I guess, you know. Johnny also played on a pretty cool metal album called Starbreaker, which had Tony Harnell from TNT was the vocalist.
Is
That's
that
pretty
named
cool.
after the Judas Priest song Starbreaker?
I think so, yeah. They put out a couple albums that are really good, kind of good, like European style heavy metal. But
Interesting.
then I already told you, Mark Kendall from Great White played a solo on a Super So Far song, because he used to live in Utah.
Why were there
And
so many
kind
of
of,
these guys living here? What was the connection?
I don't know what I don't know what Mark Kendall's connection was, or even Graham Russell. I think Graham Russell liked the area. He just thought it was beautiful. Decided to move here. Marc Kendall, might have been his wife was from here. I'm not sure, but he got in really tight with you know, the drummer and singer of Super So Far, because, you know, they're basically the captains of that ship. So there was I don't have them anymore, but I've got like I had some demos of like a new Great White album with James, the singer of Super So Far, doing the vocals on it. Not that he was going to be the singer, but you know, he was helping just like lay down some scratch tracks for when they're actually during pre-production. I don't know.
I think as far as death metal or any of that goes, the only person that lived here of even remotely of note was the guy from the Meat Shits. Do you know who the Meat Shits were?
I've heard the name.
It was basically a one-man band. Sometimes, a lot of times he had a band, but it was just like noisecore.
Yeah.
Always had like a 20, 30-minute like intro of like a sample of a porn song, and that was about it. He lived in like Ogden for some. I don't know why he came here because he was from California, but I don't know why he was hanging out here. I guess for a while in the '90s, but
Yeah,
it was
well,
like
I don't know
after
what
my
it
radio
is. Like
show.
Like
And I used to write
Utah.
to that guy. That was weird because I'm like, he didn't mention anything about living here or coming here. I don't know if he was getting away from the cops or something. Or
Well, remember, was it Mike Starr or Mike? Who was the? It was like one of the bass players of Alice in Chains. Was hanging out here when he died. Like he overdosed of heroin.
well,
So
this
I
is
don't
the
know.
state
There's
to do that in.
wouldn't know. I can't seem to find any good heroin. But
That's like that and crystal meth are like the drugs of choice here.
yeah, crystal meth is overrated.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah, it's
all drugs
basically
are overrated, especially
yeah, you know,
marijuana. Like, what's the big
mar-
fucking deal?
marijuana is overrated.
Makes you
Um,
tired. It makes you hungry. I'm like, that's my natural state. Fuck, I don't need to do that
makes
anymore.
makes me anxious. Like gives me anxiety.
I've never
Like
actually tried it.
you might like it, but
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think it's bad. I don't think
I
it should
don't.
be banned.
The way I see it is like people treat it like it's this great sneaky thing. Like my parents don't know I'm doing this. That's how people seem to treat it. And
Mm,
it's like all they care about, they do it as much as they can, and especially if they're at work, it's like they've got to do it while they're at work or right before and right after. But if they can do it at work, it's supremely the most satisfying thing. I'm like, why don't you just come to
yeah.
your work and just work and then worry about that shit after? Like, why is that so enticing that you need to do it right away? It's just, I don't understand like the appeal of that. It's just, and everybody I see who does it, I'm like, what's so good about it? What does it do? Like, I don't know, it just relaxes you. I'm like, okay, well, I go home and I have a burger and a beer and watch TV. That's how I relax. Why do I need to smoke a weed joint to feel relaxed? I don't get it. What's the difference? Or I go work out. So what?
Oh, dude, just the way you said that, it's like you almost sound like a fucking like boomer. Like, I don't need to smoke a weed joint.
Well, I said in there like I stammered, so I fixed the sentence as I was saying it. So I was
No,
going to
she's
say
like,
a joint, then I said we, but I said both. So I
what are you
flubbed, but I fixed
smoking?
it. I saved it.
You're smoking those
But
drugs.
anyways, that's my point. Is everybody I know who does it? That's like all they care about. It's all they spend their money on. It's all they talk about. It's all they do. I'm like, and they're obsessed with me not doing it. They want me to be the guy, or they want to be the one to get me to try it. It's like this life goal of everybody I've met smokes pot. It is their mission to get me to try it. And the more you try, come on,
Okay,
come on, I'm like, fuck you. Don't sit there and go,
well,
come on, come on. That's even annoying me even further and making me hate you. Get the fuck away from me. Go do it if
yeah.
you're gonna do it. Don't try and involve me in it. Fuck off. I don't want it. Never did. Never will. Don't care. That's it. And I haven't
Well,
tried it. And everybody's like, well, how do you know if you haven't tried it? I'm like, well, because everybody I know that does it, it rules their fucking life. It's every move they make has to be involving weed. They have to go someplace. They have to buy it. They have to have money for it all the time. They never have money because they always buy it. They always smell like it. They always have red, puffy eyes. It's like, why? Like, I don't get it. If you do
yeah.
it at home, then whatever. But I mean, if I'm home, I'm doing my own shit. I don't need to relax. So I have like, or at least it was a distinction probably all throughout the '90s of being like the guy who not only doesn't smoke cigarettes but doesn't get high at all. And I don't even really like to get drunk either. It's just
Yeah.
dumb to me. I'm like, I
Uh-huh.
think we've talked about this before. I grew up in an Italian family. We always had wine and beer on the table. My mom and dad always encouraged me to try it. And
Uh-huh.
for them, wine's the blood of Christ. So there's that. And then beer is like no big deal because we just drink beer with our dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm meeting all these kids in Utah who are like, oh my God, the Holy Grail, we're going to go get beer tonight. I'm like, so fucking what? I'm going home to
Mm-hmm.
watch Doctor Who. Fuck off. I'm not going to do that. Watch you
Yeah, we get it.
get drunk and throw up. Who cares? Fuck it.
We get it, JR. You're a nerd. You're just a square, man.
Yeah,
No,
I'm a
I
fucking
like look,
square.
dude. Drugs, like
That's why
especially
I'm the
something
guy
like
who does the record label, the radio show, and all that other shit.
yeah, you wouldn't like. I don't think you'd like weed, to be honest with
I
you.
probably wouldn't. I wouldn't see the difference. I don't think I'd feel the difference, or maybe I
Oh,
would. I don't
you
know.
would feel it. You would feel it, but like I don't know. I think it's
It also seems like the people, the more they do it, the less effect it really has. Is that how it goes, or?
yeah. You build a tolerance to it, you know. So and I think that's probably why I don't like it is because I've never done it enough to feel the tolerance. But like I don't like the initial feeling of it. It feels too. For me, it makes me kind of feel like I can't quite like rein in my thoughts. Does that make sense?
Well,
Like,
that's what I mean. You lose self-control. To me, that's something I never
no,
want to
it's
be. Is
it's
in a
not that
state
because
where
like, but there's other
you know what I
people.
mean. You just kind of like you're not. You're more
But here's the
aloof.
thing, like, it affects everybody differently. So there's other people I know they do it. Like, so if I smoke it, like I actually did it a couple of weeks ago because I have a friend that's just smokes it constantly, but it actually helps her. Like, she's great on it. You know, she has the like little vape pens and everything, and has the medical card and everything. And you know, she'll take a couple of hits off of it and go water the plants and uh, do the laundry and clean up. You know, she's great on it. And like the other couple of weeks ago, I was just like, let me try it. You know, because I always just like try it every 6 months, just like maybe I'll like it this time. You know, and I hit it, and I just like, oh man, I ended up just like kind of laying on a lawn chair for like 2 hours, just like, I mean, there was times when it was kind of relaxing, felt nice, you know, but then I kind of just like, oh no, I got to get home, you know, and then I just I don't feel good on it. It just makes me feel a little off. But like I said, I mean, if for other people, it makes them, you know, either doesn't really, you can't even tell they're on it, you know, and that's fine. You know, everybody should do what they need to do to kind of get through the day. I mean, I'm on Adderall, so I think that's why it's like so. Pot is something that kind of brings you down, and I don't mean down as like makes you depressed, but it like if you're kind of anxious and already sort of high strung, you know, it it can kind of help you. It could help you relax. So maybe it would be good for you because you know you're kind of go 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 all the time. You know, maybe it would help you
No,
just
not
sort of.
really, not really, dude. That's my whole point. Is like I don't need to relax because my whole
Whereas,
goal is when I come home, everything is a side thought. I focus on make my dinner, watch something I want to watch on TV. Then I make sure I always have dessert. I still watch some TV.
mhm,
Then I go in my room and I do whatever for the label or this or that, or I write some music and I do all the shit I want. I do that every night. It's important to me because that's who I am. That's what I want
I
to do.
like that. Like
I don't just come
I
home and
wish
immediately shower and immediately go to bed and get up and do it. Even if I got to get up early, I do my shit every night.
I need to be
That's what
like
I do.
that.
That's what I mean. I don't need weed to relax. If I do it anymore, I sometimes I have days where it's hard to get off my ass. You know, it's the
Oh,
last thing
yeah,
I
yeah,
need is something to relax me more and make me more hungry
right.
for fucking chocolate pie or something. I'm like, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, maybe it wouldn't be good. I mean,
and
you
really,
know,
to be honest with you, the way I see the
but
people who
if
use
you're
it
fine
behave,
without it,
it
uh
just puts me off. I'm like, I don't want to be like them. You know,
for
I
sure.
look at these guys like, and that's not saying you're all a bunch of fucking losers if you do it. If you do it, fine. I'm not against pot. Like, I think it should be legal. It's ridiculous to go to fucking jail for having a little ounce of weed on you. It's fucking
Yeah.
stupid. And that's
Oh
all
yeah.
that is the pharmaceutical industry trying to stop it because they know it cures cancer or helps cancer and all of that. They just don't want it out there. So fuck them. So I'm all
Oh,
for
yeah.
weed being legal, but I
Mhm.
just don't want to do it. And people seem to like have
Yeah.
this mission in life to get me to try. I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
want.
I don't.
Like, well, you won't
And,
even try it. I'm like, I don't have a desire to. And the more I see you guys, and the more you fuck with me to try it, the more I don't want to do it. Because look at you,
but
all
kind
you
of
do
like
is.
in a weird way, like I sort of understand where they're coming from because okay, for whatever reason they love it and
Well, that's
it gets
great,
them
you know.
it gets them through the day. But so like when you love something and you do want to share it, right? Like if you love a certain band or something, it's like, oh, you got to hear this band. I think it's sort of a little bit of that. It's
And I'll be honest,
I
I
don't I
hate the
don't think
smell of
it's
it. I
like
cannot stand the smell of
I
marijuana,
don't like it
raw
either.
or smoked. I fucking hate it.
It's kind of this sickly sweet. Yeah, it doesn't do it for me. But
I mean, I get the appeal, like that raw bud smell. People are like, oh yeah, I want to light that up. And I know it gets you out of your head a little bit. I understand that feeling, but yeah, I don't know. It's not really all
now
that enticing.
if
But
I
I'm
was
too
if I
busy. I'm
was
too busy. I have like shit to do. I got music to write, releases to put out, like
if I was
things
ever
to
to get you
enjoy.
to do a drug, I would I would try to like, and it would have to be like
And I'm
set and
not
set.
addictive. I'm not worried about
No,
getting
no.
addicted or getting into other drugs. That's not my worry at all.
Here,
I'm not
here's
worried about anything. I'm just saying it's just
here's what I would like if I was to get you to try something. What I would it would be, and here's the thing. Before I tell you what it would be, like when you do certain drugs, and I think it's applies with weed. There's a term called set and setting, right? And
there's what?
it's set and setting is something that you need to be uh, aware of if you're going to do it, like especially like with a psychedelic, like a psychedelic type drug, right? And what that means is like you want to be somewhere where you're comfortable and safe, and you want to be around people that you enjoy being around with, that make you feel comfortable and safe. If those aren't, if that's not there, you shouldn't do any. I wouldn't try any drug. You know. But if I could get you into like the right set and setting, like a nice, uh, get you in a comfy chair. You might have some like dark ambient music playing or whatever, fucking candles, whatever you do. I would, I think it'd be cool to do some DMT with you.
DMT.
DMT, man,
What's that?
dimethyltryptamine. Well, your body makes it naturally, but it's kind of a crystal that's extracted from uh, a lot of
What the
plants.
hell are you doing? Where are you? Are you in the middle of a motocross or something?
I don't know what the fuck that
There's
is,
like
honestly.
motorcycles and airplanes all over the place out
Because
there.
to me, it's like not going away. Like
Yeah, it's just continually going. What's going on? There's like this non-stop, this motorcycles or mufflers or whatever the fuck they are.
I don't know. Okay, I think it might have gone away. Anyway, it's plants produce it, animals, it's produced endogenously in the body, um, and and the reason why I think it would be like you could do it, like you shouldn't have necessarily a problem doing it. So it's considered like the most powerful psychedelic out there. But what's great about it, at least in the like when you smoke it or vape it, is that it gives you an intense trip. But there's two things that I think is great about it is it doesn't make you feel like your body's like something's wrong with your body. Like weed like kind of makes you feel like you're like something like something's in your stomach. Like you kind of feel that like weird body, like something's wrong. So like you don't do that. What you literally do is you end up like closing your eyes and literally going to another dimension. You know, where sometimes you'll encounter entities that will talk to you, and it seems realer than real. And
See,
then,
but that's my problem with it is it's not real. So why do it?
Well, okay, okay. So here's the thing with that. Okay, so I've only done it once, right? And I didn't break through or anything. But if you think, like, if there's any kind of, if you think there's like anything else out there, right? You know, behind this facade of reality, right? If you think there's something going on that we can't see, I mean, do you sort of feel that? Do you sense that?
Well, there's a lot of that.
Like on a spiritual level, do you think there's like other worlds out there that maybe are even overlapping with ours?
I would totally say that, but I would not use the word spiritual about it. That's kind of how people cover it up because they don't know any better. But there's other planes of existence, other.
Well, I'm sorry I used the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like other dimensions, okay? And possibly in those other dimensions there might be entities or other kind of forms of consciousness, right? I mean, you sense that, right? You think, you know, you can kind of say that, like, yeah, I don't think this is it, man. Like, I don't think we're.
Well, I don't remember if we talked about this, but the dark ambient music, if you listen to that, if you're in the right mindset, if you get all the garbage out of your mind that you have in there throughout the day, like relax, then you kind of, your body sleeps, but your mind is active. It kind of grabs on to the dark ambient music, and what you're really doing is an out-of-body experience, or you're kind of performing magic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You're reaching out with your ethereal self, which of course is either your soul or whatever you want to call it, your life force, or just your mind.
Sure.
And I've done that, and I've done it where I've seen myself in bed. I've been in other people's houses, and when you realize you're doing it, I get really excited. But then all of a sudden, that's when I'm like, oh, I'm really doing this. Oh, and I wake up and I twitch in bed. And that's why when you feel like you're falling in bed, and you start in your bed, your body moves. That's what it is that falling back into your body. People are wondering what the fuck we're talking about right now, but
no,
what does this have to do with metal? But
I don't know. Well, no,
drugs and metal.
So we've established that, like, so you sense it, and I think a lot of people sense that. Okay, there's other worlds out there. There's other energies. There's consciousness. There's dimensions. There's, you know, all sorts of stuff. And I'll be honest, dude. Like I was kind of at a point where, you know, before I did the DMT, I was at a point where I stopped kind of really thinking anything was like this was it. Like I'm just, you know, everything's bullshit. Like fucking, I'm an accident. This is an accident. There's nothing else. When I die, my conscious is just gonna die, and everything's black, and I'm not gonna remember anything, you know. And I did the DMT, and it was like it was like for like just a brief moment, like it gave me a glimpse of like, hey man, there's something else out here. Check it out, you know. But with DMT, like the thing with DMT is it's really quick. That's why I was thinking like, okay, I think you could handle it because, you know, you take a few hits of like a vape pen, which is what I use, and you close your eyes and you get to see another world or another universe practically, right? Like it's kind of indescribable too.
So what have you seen?
So it was kind of gradual. So like the first couple of times, so like, you know, we just kind of spent the evening sort of passing around like this vape pen. So the first kind of thing I noticed was like, you know, you close your eyes and you start to see like a sort of geometrical kind of landscape, and they shift around, but they're very vivid and a lot of depth and shadowing to them. And then a couple of times I caught a real glimpse of a lady who was just beautiful. She just sort of popped into my vision and then out. But it was like you could kind of sense like it was outside of me, right? And that's what's kind of interesting about it. It's like, you know, you can close your eyes and imagine things, and you can dream and everything, but you kind of tell their dreams. Whereas in that it's being generated by your own mind. These felt like they were happening outside of my consciousness, and I was basically seeing it, right? So after we did that, like kind of hit this vape pen a couple times, the guy that was, you know, sort of supplying it, he brings out like the actual crystal form of it, right? And he puts it in a bong. He's like, okay, he's like, do you want to go a little further? And at that point I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I want to go. Because everything I read about it, it's like people made it sound scary, you know, like you're just like rocketed into another dimension and it's freaky and they, you know, can't handle it. But I was, dude, I thought I was going to be weird about it. But I couldn't wait. Like, just like, yeah, dude, send me out of this world. So he loaded it up in this bong, and I took like a couple of big like hits on it. I was doing this with my brother actually too. So I kind of leaned back and I start to close my eyes because I could actually feel like the world shaking, right? Like it felt like thrusters just like turned on underneath me, and it just started rumbling. And I was just like, here we go. And then my brother goes, keep your eyes open. And I just kept my eyes open. And he was wearing my brother was wearing like these track pants that were black with like a white stripe. And I kept my eyes open, and his pants like kind of stretched and then made like a square in front of me. And then I was on like a, sort of on the bridge of like a spaceship, looking out this window into like a void.
So how much of this is like something you think really happened versus just say you maybe tripped out?
I don't
and
think it
made
really
up all
happened.
this shit?
Like, I don't think I was anywhere, right? Like, but I'm not making this up. This is kind of the effect it had on me, right? So I was like just on like a bridge of a spaceship, staring into like this void, like blackness, you know, and maybe like occasional star, but it was just black and it was beautiful. And then you're out of it, like literally 5-10 minutes, you're out of it, and you don't feel any after effects. You don't feel woozy. You don't feel hungover. You're just like, holy crap, that was really interesting. You know, and it might, maybe it is just like stuff happening inside my mind, but that's what I think was interesting about it is it feels like what you're seeing is happening outside of you, because a lot of the stuff that you kind of see and like the kind of the entities that kind of float around and contact you, there's not a reference point I can think of to where I would make it up, you know, where I would imagine something like that normally. Does that make sense? Like they're completely like just things where I was seeing things in my mind that I'd never been like I'd never came close to like conceptualizing or have any sort of like reference point for it. It was just really new and really cool. And then like I said, it's over really fast, and there's no like literally you don't feel like you're taking anything, you know, just it's in and out. So I think you could handle it. And I think
I am such a guy who is steeped in reality and just don't like the false and artificiality of like getting drunk and getting high. That I wouldn't trust that. I would think it was just something that was just artificial. And it would be cool, but it would be artificially induced. So what's the point? You know,
But you
could actually astral travel out of your body, and like it was legit. Like how I know I can do it without drugs or alcohol aiding me to do it.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, okay, well, maybe.
Well, that's
but
okay.
How do you know?
That's what I mean. Like, well, you wouldn't know until you try it. But like I said, like, okay, so you have like this kind of, what if there was a way to astral travel without having to, you know, meditate for 45 minutes?
Because there is a way to do it. I mean, sometimes you just do it in your sleep.
Yeah, you can reach these states in other ways, but this is kind of like, okay, here's a way to do it, and kind of almost guarantee it each time.
Well, I know that you can do that without any kind of drugs though too. It's possible to do it. You just have to
I
focus. You
know,
have to get all the jargon out of your brain. That's why a lot of people
but
do it when they
but
sleep.
yeah, and here's the thing, like I'm the type of person that has trouble focusing, has trouble concentrating, and and you can reach these states, right, through meditation and that kind of thing, breath work. But I'm just saying, okay, so here's another way to do it, just another method of doing it, and it's quick, you know, and it is natural. It's not a, I mean, it's a chemical, but it's coming from a plant. This substance is extracted from root bark of Mimosa hostilis. Plus, your body makes it naturally. It's what I think it is, or what they theorize it is that it's the same compound or chemical that facilitates like dreams, things like that. So imagine being able to sort of, instantly and for like 5 minutes, put yourself in like a little waking dream, you know, like a lucid dream. Like it's really interesting. It's really interesting stuff. And there's there's been plenty of like uh, data points where there's never been an overdose on it. You can't overdose on it, really. I don't think you can. It'd be impossible, probably. There's never been a death. I think there was one guy that like was doing it like orally, like he was rather than like smoking it. I think he was taking it, which you can do. You can eat it or whatever, like, but you have to sort of do some different things on it, and it like lasts longer or whatever if you swallow it. But I think he was doing it like constantly, and one guy I think had a mental break, but even he's fine, But it's I don't know, and I'm the type of person that's like terrified of stuff like acid and mushrooms and stuff like that. But it was one of the friendliest kind of drug experiences I've ever had. No, and I think with your like creativity, kind of your creative mind, you're sort of you're out there kind of, your fantasy type, you love the fantasy, you love dark fantasy, and you kind of have that sort of foot in the world of like magic, right? I think this would be something that, like I said, I'd never push it on you or anything, but I think you would handle it fine, and I think you'd find it interesting, and maybe even take something from it, that worthwhile.
Wow, that's quite a tirade about
Especially,
THC.
especially like the idea of like,
Or what is it? THC or
no, DMT.
What's THC?
That's weed. That's whatever's in.
That's like the
On.
chemical that's in weed, right?
Yeah.
What is it? Tetra something.
I have no idea, but
Now THC is the stuff people were putting in vape pens right now, but it's illegal here in Utah. Is that correct?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So technically, if you're using THC, you're a little sneaky bastard here in Utah, but other states have it legal. So
Yeah.
so there's that. So what's GMB? That's a date rape drug, isn't it?
I don't know, GHB or GMB. I think that is like the Rufinol or whatever.
It's a hardcore band. So,
yeah, CBGB's is a hardcore club, but it no longer exists. But
yeah, I don't know anything about drugs. Like it's.
I
have no fucking clue.
I don't know a lot, but like I kind of had like a curiosity about like things like DMT, because once again, like I'm curious about things that could potentially, and it could be all bullshit, right? But that at least sort of gives me possible like sort of evidence of showing you, something like a world or a universe that exists that we don't currently see. It kind of gives me hope,
Well, I think that stuff is out there. It's just very hard to break into it. You have to be very focused and clear of mind. And
Sure.
if you have your cell phone nearby you, which most people do these days, it's just not going to happen. You can't have the TV on in the background. You can't be listening to thrash metal or rap or whatever the fuck. You got to. That's what ambient music is really for. In
Hmm.
some ways, other than just like listening and relaxation, it's also to get your
Yeah.
mind kind of channeled and focused.
And
So
we,
that's
yeah,
why
we
there's
were
ritual
listening.
ambient.
Yeah, we were listening to like sort of an ambient, um, kind of like floaty music. It wasn't. I wouldn't call it dark.
Well,
Um,
not necessarily dark. I mean, it is
but
conducive
yeah,
to
like
that.
it's
But
kind
there's
of
other stuff
like cosmic space type music.
essentially that's what chants are for. That's what religious chanting is for. Like Gregorian chants, the Tibetan monk chants, all of that's what that stuff. That's the purpose of that. It isn't like they're singing to God, just like oh, it's just they're doing the same repeated chant over and over and over to get themselves into this state of mind. And there was a girl who
Sure.
used to live here in Utah. She lived over by Dugway or whatever, like the Air Force Base out there.
Yeah.
This is what's weird is she taught me about magic, and up to then, even as a Satanist, I was like, "Magic's stupid. It's not real. You can't do anything with your mind. Get out of here. It's fucking stupid." I
Mhm.
related it to religion, which is actually a huge mistake because it has nothing to do with religion and God and superpowers and let there be light. Ding.
All right.
Not at all. What magic
No,
is.
it's about your own power, right?
You're
Your own.
using your own body's energy. You do have an aura of energy around you. I'm not saying it's like this happy life force or whatever. It is a life you
Yeah.
exude biochemical energy. It's a scientific fact. Look it up,
Sure.
everybody.
Oh yeah, chemistry,
And
dude.
that's why when you're at the post office and there's somebody in line like right up on your ass, but they're not touching you, but you can feel it
You
because their
sense it.
energy is touching your energy. That's why you can feel it. And
Hmm.
if they're like somebody who's like this greasy kind of evil person or hateful person, or they have some weird
Hmm.
skittish behavior, like
Yeah.
anxious, then you can feel
Makes
it. And
you
you're like, what the
uncomfortable.
fuck?
Yeah.
And you turn around, there's a guy right behind you or an old lady. And
Yeah. And you
that's
can
what it
almost like
is.
you can like see
Now,
their
you
intentions and they're not good. And you're like,
Well,
oh,
it's
this
either
guy.
that or they're just jittery, or I mean, but you can use this magic of yours to heal people too. So this girl that lived out by it was Hill Air Force Base, she lived out there. She said, I'm like, whatever. She's like, no, really, I'll show you. First of all, she told me you get a penny and you attach it to a string and you hold the penny
Hmm.
really straight so it doesn't twist around. Make sure you hold it straight and you stare at it for a while until it stops, and then you keep staring at it. What you're really doing there is getting kind of in not a trance per se, but you're focusing very. And I've done this before, like setting up like a piece of solder furniture. You buy it at the store and you put it together. It's like you're so focused on putting the shit together, you tune out everything around you. You kind of get tunnel
Hmm.
vision.
Hmm.
That's kind of what you're doing. But then anyways, this demonstration she gave me, I was like, whatever, magic, stupid. She said, pick up something that you have with you every day. I go, okay, my dad has died in 2009. It was a few years ago at this time. Here's his pocket knife, and I have it with me every day at work. She's like, okay, pick it up, hold it in your hand. I'm like, okay. This is over chat, like on Yahoo Messenger. She's in Dugway, Utah. I'm in Cottonwood Heights. That's like, how many miles is that? Like 50, 100 miles, hundreds of miles?
Hmm.
How far is that? It's a ways away. It's like a couple hours drive. That's where she
Yeah,
lives.
it's
We met
about
on
30,
Yahoo
it's like
Singles.
40 miles or something. Yeah.
So she's like, pick that knife up. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? Is it going to unlock and stab me in the head? I'm being a total jackass. She's like, no, hold on, just calm down. I'm like, okay. She's like, just chill out. Don't stop talking, stop typing. I'm like, okay. So I'm holding the pocket knife, and then all of a sudden, I feel the pocket knife go, and this little tingle of energy goes from my hand with the pocket knife all the way up my arm into my chest. And I didn't say a
Whoa.
word. And she's like, did you feel that? And I was like, excuse me? And she's like, did you feel that? I'm like, feel what? She said, I sent an energy pulse into the knife. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? She's
Wow.
like, yeah, no, I just did that. I'm like, do it again. And she did it again, same thing. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm telling you, you know me, I didn't believe in God since the third grade. I
Hmm.
totally denied the existence of God on my own without death metal or books or anything, just because I thought about it logically. Because I asked my mom once, I'm like, okay, because my mom's super Catholic, super religious. She's Catholic like fuck. My family's Italian. Her parents are Roman Catholic off the boat here in America. They worship, they're totally into Catholicism. So
Mhm.
I asked my mom once, I'm like, how did, you know, God created the dinosaurs? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, what about cavemen? Yeah. I'm like, okay, so if Adam and Eve were the first people, how come we had cavemen who were like all brutish and like ape-like, and then we had them after Adam and Eve? Aren't Adam and Eve more modern? She's like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, who came first? That doesn't make sense. And she couldn't give me an answer. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so what you're telling me here? So, anyways, that's a little bit of a tangent there, but I mean, I never believed in religion, therefore I chucked magic with that. So me being a total like skeptic, non-believer, and this girl gave me this demonstration with the pocket knife. I'm like, so you can channel it, and for her it was easy. For other people, it's harder. So I've tried it since then. Like I have my friend Jill, the girl who runs Razorback Records. She moved to Malaysia.
Hmm.
She would had a boyfriend or a husband out there actually, and every week she'd be sick because she's American and she could not eat their food or drink their water. She'd be sick all the time. So I tried it on her, and she said it worked, and I did the same thing. I didn't tell her I tried it. But then she'd say, "Oh, I feel better," and I explained to her about magic. And then when that would happen, I would send that out there, and she'd say, "Did you just do something? Because I feel better." I'm like, "Yeah," and I wouldn't tell her because I didn't want her to just go, "Oh yeah, I feel," and just kind of tell herself, "Yeah." I was like, "No, I want to really know." So
Let
I
me
didn't
ask
tell her.
you, like with the pocket knife thing. So do you think your dad had anything to do with?
I don't
Like,
know. I don't believe in like that. So ghosts. It's like I have a ghost story too. We'll have to do another show on that, like maybe for
yeah,
Halloween
with the
coming up.
ghost stories, dude. I got a couple of those.
But I mean, I'm not going to say that I think, I'm not going to say I believe in Jesus and God and heaven and hell and the devil and all that. But let's just say I
Right, right.
think there are entities out there that are like not corporeal in form, at least as we know it. And it's a life form, not a spirit or like a god or something or a demon per se. But I mean, there
They're
are like,
sentient,
what's that?
sentient and aware,
You
right?
could say it's like an alien presence. You've seen Star Trek. There have been plenty of episodes of Star Trek or Doctor Who where there's been aliens who live in another realm of reality that's not tangible, physical.
Right.
Like on Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, there are they're benevolent, or there's evil ones too, actually, the prophets, but they're actually aliens that live in the wormhole. But these
Yeah, yeah.
people on Bajor, the planet nearby, worship them as gods. Okay, well, easy enough to understand that. But the Starfleet people come in, they're scientists, they're like, no, they're aliens that live in the wormhole, and time for them has no meaning. They're non-linear. They can go back and forth to the past, to the future, whatever the fuck. They don't care. They live forever. So, and they have an evil version of them and a good version. They're always sparring for control of everything. So, I mean, there could be life forms like that, and that's where I think religion comes into play. Is like
That's
there
their
are
way
other
of
life
trying to
forms out there.
explain it.
People like worship it as gods, but you just don't understand it. Just like if we went with a cell phone to some primitive planet, they'd be like, "What the fuck is that? You're a god. You're magical. You have these powers." And I could just like play music through I play Immolation or Carcass through my phone. They're like, "What is that?" So
And they'd immediately go, man, I don't know, dude. I like the
that sounds
Ross.
like Morris sound.
Is that a
Get the fuck
Morris
out
sound
of here.
recording?
I
Get
meet a
that
bunch of
shit.
asshole aliens like me. They're like, "Oh, I want the fucking old shit like Carcass. Get the fuck out of here with that
Get,
Morris
get,
sound.
man,
Is
at
that
least,
nuclefication, motherfucker? Get out of here."
yeah, dude,
So,
they lie.
anyways, yeah, I mean, this girl taught me about magic, and it's funny because we met on a single site. We didn't really mix, but we remained friends, and she taught me all this stuff. I'm like, wow, so there really is something to that, but it's not having to do with God per se or heaven or anything like that. It's the power of your own mind.
Hmm.
Really, you control your life force energies, and there are those who are better at it. I got to work at it. There are some people who just do it.
Yeah, and I'm not
Like
very
I've
good
had
at it.
I've had
Hence
dreams where
why
I've like been in
DMT.
people's houses. I could see artwork on the wall. I could see what color the wall is painted. I could see them eating. I could see what they were eating. And it wasn't a dream. I didn't just like dream it. I'm like, you really knew you were there. And I've had dreams where I've seen myself in bed in my room, in my old apartment, and places like that. I'm like,
Have,
okay,
have you ever had sleep paralysis?
I have not had that, but I've heard of
I've
it.
had it.
And
I get it usually like once a month.
is when you're
Uh,
immobile and
no,
unconscious.
so well, I mean, yeah, or they say it's the night hag. No, there's really a scientific kind of thing about it. So, when you're sleeping, I think your body actually releases a certain like neurons, that will uh, freeze like kind of keep your muscles from like acting out your dreams, so it makes your body freeze. And then once that happens, the night hand comes out of the closet and sits on your fucking chest.
There you go.
So,
It could be that too.
no, no, it's scary stuff, dude. Like sleep paralysis is just unnerving. I
Well,
haven't had
sometimes your mind is going into overdrive, but your body's still sleeping, so it could just be that too. But I
well,
mean, you could also
that's
say
what it is. Like, yeah, and you just can't move, and a lot of times like you tend to hallucinate, so you can see some like you'll sometimes see shapes around your room, like walking around.
you're getting a lot of wind in your microphone.
Yeah, I know it's starting to get windy, but we should probably wrap her up.
Well, we're gonna have to like go on about this a little bit, but somehow keep meddling
Yeah.
to it. But yeah, we'll have to have a Halloween episode with our
It doesn't
ghosts.
have to always be metal. Everything's metal, you know. And if you
Well,
want
I mean, we're
to.
getting into my favorite time of year, so you should really like. I should send you some records. I know you won't listen to them, but they're really good dark metal stuff and black metal that I think you will like. So I'll send them to you, but whether or not you listen to them is another story. But
All right. Well, I'll
in the
do my best.
meantime, let me know when you're coming to get barbecue so I can get you those books, and you can just borrow my movie and watch that too. But the books I think you'll really find interesting. I'm almost done with Rob. It's a pretty good read. I'm like pretty into it.
Okay.
I don't enjoy I'm not against gays at all, but like goddamn, some of the detail. I'm like goddamn, dude.
Does he go into graphic detail?
Not like I slurped the cum out of it, not nothing like that. But I mean, he implies that kind of thing. But he'll say he met a guy and asked to have him keep his underwear or a jock strap. I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to know that, Rob. I don't want to hear heads are gonna roll and then think of that. I mean, whatever. Like, Rob's cool. He's a god of metal. There's no doubt about it. It's just you get intimate stuff from him in there. What would you expect in his book? I mean, to him it's normal too. So I mean, it's infinitely more interesting than Bruce Dickinson's book. I'm sorry, Bruce. But
Man, yeah. Well, maybe he'll write another book. So
I think he should. I had that thought the other day. I'm like, someone else should sit down with him and co-write it with him and say, okay, no, fencing, 1 page, that's it. No more. No more flying. Let's talk about Maiden, Eddie, the Mummy, Mission from Airy, the argument. Let's hear about that. What's the story there? Come on.
Oh, I know the story there. That
Well,
one's
I know, but you want to read about it. I don't want to just hear it on the CD. I want to hear it in the book, like how it
on.
happened.
They explained it like actually in detail. I saw like a clip.
Oh, I know. I mean, if you write a book and you're the singer of Iron Maiden, you gotta have like, oh, we played live. Steve laughed at me on stage, and I forgot the lyrics to Aces High. Anyway, 6 more pages about fencing. Oh, okay. I spent the night on the floor at the gym. Okay. And,
I'll have to read it again.
Sorry, Bruce. Right. I do respect Bruce Dickinson, but goddamn, his book was not that great. Anyways.
All right.
Okay, well, it looks like that's it. You and all your evil spirits can go congregate back in your house now from the golf course that's haunted.
Yeah, I think it is, actually.
Is it cold out there? It's getting pretty cold out now.
It's chilly, but I'm all right. Feels good.
I forgot, you don't have a soul. You lost it while you were astral traveling.
Yeah.
You astrally traveled and left your soul somewhere. That's why you're just...
You asshole travel.
I do asshole travel. Actually, I've rescinded some of my assholism. I said Carcass Heartwork was actually pretty good. I gave him short shrift on that. And Immolation, I said I like their new one. It's good. I have not gone back and listened to the other ones, but I can't say that I'm going to love it all. But this new album really was pretty good. I'm not just saying that. It was not bad at all. It's pretty heavy.
Listen, I'm not trying to like convince you to like love all these bands. I just think that sometimes
I'm going back and thinking I was a lot harsh on a lot.
Yeah, I think you're dismissing them.
If I went back and listened to them, I'd probably like them a lot more. But I'm thinking of back in my radio show days. I got so sick of their fans. That's why I hate a lot of bands is their fans. I don't have a problem with Tool musically, but their fans are such douchebags. Like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck what Maynard said. I don't care. Fuck off.
Like I said, like I don't even need, I'm not necessarily even wanting you to like change your mind and like love the bands, but my thing is like, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, is just dismissing a band for something that you kind of perceived about them that I don't necessarily think is correct. Like, whether it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
I know. Like I said, I've rescinded my evil thoughts about a couple of bands in my time,
Yeah.
and like,
So, I'm not going to push it on you. Maybe wait a little while before you try to revisit like Cannibal Corpse. But if you do revisit Cannibal Corpse, I would say start where I did, which was Evisceration Plague. That album.
very good, sir. So,
but you don't need to, like I said.
What's going to be our thing next week then? What are you going to listen to? I listened to Carcass and Immolation. You got to do something for me now. Come on.
Okay, what is it?
I don't know. I'll send you some good dark metal and black metal stuff, but not anything too noisy or shrieky, because I know you don't like that. But there is good shit out there.
When you do send it, text me that you did, so I know.
Oh, I always text you. You just never do it, you motherfucker. You didn't text me. That's why I didn't know.
This time.
And Dropbox does notify you, so that's a weak story, my friend.
Dropbox doesn't fucking notify me. That's why.
Well, maybe you weren't paying attention, but you should get emails about it.
No, I don't.
I don't read my email. I'm too famous. I get so many.
Yeah, dude, I'm too cool.
Fucking groupies, man. Let a player play. Fuck.
Shit. I don't call them groupies. They're fans with benefits. All right, man.
All right. We'll talk to you. If you're going to come this week to eat, let me know. Text me and bring the books and shit.
I will, because actually I keep thinking about it because I'm like, man, barbecue sounds so good. Cool. I want some brisket and then like kind of vinegary barbecue sauce. Love that stuff.
Yeah.
And the sweet, spicy stuff. You're
sweet and spicy, baby.
I am. You're vinegary.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
True, I am Italian. All right. Until next week, sir, or this week if you show up to eat.
Okay, buddy.